What's good, Sesh, man? We reacting to most creative knockouts in MMA history, man. You already know. Forgotten Palacio out now on the SoundCloud. Go check that shit out right now. Let's get it done. I ain't gonna waste your time, man. We on the grind. Most creative knockouts in the MMA historia.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Fight Focus. And for today's video, we will be covering some of the most creative knockouts in MMA history. Also, shout out to Swaganometry for giving us the video recommendation. Who doesn't love a good knockout? Just kidding, that shouldn't even be a question. We've seen a lot of fighters over the years with extraordinary levels of talent showing their skills in an effort to render another man unconscious. The results are usually pleasing and terrific for the crowd, but desperation for the losing end. The whole fight turned into a mere 3 to 5 second scenario, and if you glimpse that particular knockout punch landing directly on the face, you won't regret missing the whole fight in return. Naturally, some fighters are better than others at doing this. Let's take a look at some of them. First up, Travis Brown versus Stefan Struve. Superman punches are a bit of an enigma in the fighter's repertoire. Most fighters might have it in their move set somewhere, but never really on it that much, and use it in their fights even less simply because of what's needed for execution, as well as the move often being easy to avoid for the opponent. Unless you're Stefan Struve, who walk right into one. At UFC 130, Travis Brown landed one of the cleanest straight shots to the face you're likely to see. Absolutely planting one right in the middle of the melon. What makes it so special is the fact they're heavyweights. The big boys aren't always known for their speed and agility in the cage, but Brown came out of nowhere. In a split second, he spotted Struve's forward movement, hands open, and then before he could even blink, he leaped up with the left foot and absolutely dropped them. Such speed and timing is usually reserved for the lighter divisions, but this is all class from often underrated Brown, and a name listed in our list. Next up, on to Jorge Masvidal versus Ben Askren. Jorge Masvidal's jaw-dropping KO of Ben Askren has been officially clocked at 5 seconds, but he was out in 2. The time it took for his knees to become the best friends of Askren's face. Jumping knees happen, often from the clinch, as do running knees, but never was there a knockout like this, ever before. Over before you knew it had started. Even John Anik was only halfway through the opening spot.
Right on time and shit. Shout out Nutty, man. Go to follow on Twitch, man. Replaceable. Yeah, shout out Nutty for the follow, man. What are you doing up now? But yeah, that be happening, like perfect timing knockouts, bro. You need a name for that shit. Like you run into it type
Joe Rogan
shit.
interrupted the belt out.
Fight clock is brought to you by Modelo.
There was just as much skill involved as there was luck. Masvidal did practice sprinting straight at his opponent with a knee, but if Askren didn't duck into it and move his arms out for takedown, then it might have ended very poorly for the
Yeah, I was finna be.
There was a lot of power, timing, and skill involved.
I was finna watch it because of him,
style of opening to a fight, often too big a risk for a fighter in the opening seconds. And finish inside 10 seconds of any kind is hard to come by. A flying knee knockout isn't that common either. Putting them both together is about as unique as it gets. Who's up next? Next we have Edson Barboza versus Terry Edom. Edson Barboza is a serious legend of kicking. He loves to kick. He loves to finish with kicks. He would throw those legs around you all day if you let him. We're talking about a guy who had finished fights via head kick, body kicks, and leg kicks 3 times. That's right, he pummeled and destroyed a fighter's legs so badly that they had to give up and take the TKO loss on 3 separate occasions. You get the point. His best, however, was reserved for poor Tommy Adams. After going low with the leg kick, Barbosa took a couple steps back, watched Adams drop his hands, then produced one of the cleanest and creative head kicks in MMA history, sinking his heel into the jaw for the first wheel kick finish the UFC has ever seen. It was as beautiful as it was destructive. Edom dropped to the floor. Was made better by Rogan's commentary timing.
Shit. Brother like
Fighters like
Sensei.
JDS and Vitor Belfort had utilized the spinning wheel kick since, but nothing like the day Edson Barbosa dropped jaws in the cage and in the crowd. This is probably one of the most cleanest kicks you've ever seen. Up next, Shoni Carter vs. Matt Serra. Coming to the thriller, Shoni Carter vs. Matt Serra. UFC 31 was a strange card in hindsight. The show was headlined by an already aged Randy Couture in his first heavyweight title defense against journeyman Pedro Arizo, and what would be his second of 3 unsuccessful attempts to take the belt. Pat Miletik's run with the welterweight title came to the end thanks to Carlos Newton, who would lose the championship in his next fight anyway. Chuck Liddell picked up a knockout win. Even a young BJ Penn was on the card, making his MMA debut in the prelims. And amongst all that, sitting 4 fights down for the top of the card and still years away from a much nicer career highlight of his, and one of the all-time greatest single punches the company has ever seen. Just the sound of the impact alone is enough, but the vision of Sarah's unsuspecting face, meaning Carter's back fist going 1,000 miles an hour, was one of the company's earlier genuine highlight reel knockouts. Next up, Lyoto Machida vs. Randy Couture. This came out of absolutely nowhere. Not quite the jaw-dropping highlight that legend Randy Couture was hoping for or deserved to end his career on, but when he came across Brazilian magician Lyoto Machida at UFC 129, few could have expected to see such a moment of brilliance in the cage. Machida's unique style was on full display here, slightly adjusting the more traditional front kick into that of the crane kick, most famously known by the Karate Kid film in 1984, and it paid off. Couture barely had time to react to Machida's subtle skip and hop off the left foot before the right came up and straight through the gate, dropping the former champion instantly. The Natural was incredibly pushing 48 years of age, and expectations weren't high for this fight, despite coming off the back of 3 straight wins. Machida would utilize the front kick again 7 years later against Vitor Belfort, who himself had already been dropped by the same move from Anderson Silva in his career. None of them really compares to Machida's first though. Next up, we got Dong Hyun Kim vs. John Hathaway. The sound and impact is worth the price of admission alone on this one. The point of the elbow is one of the most devastating parts of the human body when used as a weapon.
It's like
even impact on the elbow
fucking
can be razor blades causing crazy cuts and gashes to happen on the forehead. We've seen this so many times in the UFC and MMA. The pointed force of impact and hardness of the bone is one of the main reasons the controversial 12-6 elbow is a legal move in the UFC. The spinning elbow, however, is still wide open for use, and on this occasion, Korean veteran Dong Hyun Kim uses it to full effect. A lot like the spinning back fist mentioned earlier, the elbow takes an outstanding bit of timing and guesswork to pick the opponent's movement that will open them up to the shot coming through. Luckily for John Hathaway, if he can be called lucky, the elbow caught his cheek and upper jaw instead of the nose, which would have demolished his face and easily done permanent damage to the beat. A sad twist, this knockout loss in 2014 was Hathaway's last fight in MMA, despite him being only 27 years old at the time, having suffered ongoing health issues since I haven't allowed him to get back into the cage. Another time we've seen the 12-6 elbow was John Jones, who actually lost the fight due to this illegal move. Next, we're here to see Matt Hughes vs. Carlos Newton. Carlos Newton and Matt Hughes produced one of the most confusing, controversial, and one of the nastiest slam finishes in UFC history. Newton ended a 3-year reign with Pat Miletik atop the welterweight division at UFC 31. Unfortunately for him, his lawyer wouldn't last long. In the second round, Hughes was caught in the hold, but fought his way to his feet, lifting Newton up and against the cage to release some of the pressure. But to no avail, eventually passing out where he stood. The problem with the end result came after Hughes was unconscious, dropping Newton headfirst into the mat from quite a height. Newton was knocked out cold on impact. Referee John McCarthy simply didn't see Hughes had already passed out, thinking he slammed him down on purpose.
I remember
when
from that. We reacted to that.
Saw Newton out like a light. He called the fight off in Hughes' favor. In all the chaos, Hughes could be heard asking McCarthy what happened and telling his corner after the fight that I was out. So he did admit that he was out though.
Nah.
A contender for knockout of the year 2019, Nico Price's astonishing KO.
Got a knockout with that shit, bro.
In UFC history. Vic's 4th loss on the trot.
That's how you know that shit effective. Oh shit.
3 of them being knockouts came in incredibly unexpected
look,
fashion less than 2 minutes into the first round. With Price on his back, Vic looked to jostle for a better
Bro,
position
doing
out of the
that.
full guard by standing up onto his feet.
That illegal
First mistake.
move, bro.
He then left Price's right leg
Man,
completely
no.
free when he leaned down towards his opponent looking to land some strikes. Second and last mistake.
Bro.
Price threw his heels straight into the jaw of Vic, turning
Yo,
the lights
Sip,
off in
let
an
me hit
instant
that
as he
move
flopped to
on
the
your ass,
floor.
bro. Look
Some
at
in the
that
arena
shit.
and watching on TV
Bro.
even said they could hear the sound of Vic's jaw cracking on impact. Dude, imagine hearing somebody's
Think
jaw
about your
crack.
sibling next time
How
you
many
hit that
Gary
move,
Goodrich or
bro.
Paul Herrera?
Trying to knock him out. Trying to take his jaw.
Dude, imagine hearing somebody's jaw crack. How many Gary Goodrich or Paul Herrera? Maybe not the flashiest nor the most exciting, but Gary Goodrich knocking out Paul Herrera at UFC 8 has to go down as one of the most unique and abstruse finishes of all time.
Bro, really?
Just
bro,
13 seconds is all it took.
Bro,
And
really
what was the
got a
MMA debut
knockout
of both
that
fighters?
shit, bro.
In the first round of the UFC 8 tournament, wrestler Herrera
That's
and
it,
Trinidadian
man.
Canadian Koksulwan artist Goodrich looked to be one of the more even and the MMA dishes of all. But Gary coming to Gary on the Vic's jaw
And you
instant
can
as he
hear
flopped to
his
the floor.
jaw cracking.
Price threw his heels straight into the
from
jaw of
that
Vic, turning the
move,
lights off
bruh.
in an instant as he flopped to the floor. Some in the
That's
arena
crazy.
and watching on TV even said they could hear the sound of Vic's jaw
I
cracking
think
on
I hit
impact.
that.
Dude,
Nah.
imagine hearing somebody's jaw crack.
Nah,
How
I
many
got
Gary
hit
Goodrich
with that
or Paul
move a
Herrera?
couple times.
Maybe not the
bruh.
flashiest nor the
Damn,
most exciting,
God.
but Gary Goodrich
You
knocking
gotta
Paul
back up
Herrera
when
at
they hit
UFC
that
has to go
shit,
down as
bruh.
one of the most unique and abstruse finishes of all
Yeah.
time. Just 13 seconds is all it took. And what was the MMA debut of both fighters? In the first round of the UFC 8
I
tournament,
got the
wrestler
samurai
Herrera
fit,
and
the
Trinidadian
karate
Canadian
fit.
Koksulwan artist Goodrich
What the
looked to be
fuck?
one of the more
Armbar?
even contests on the card, pitting two mat-based fighters together. Herrera shot for the leg, Goodrich dropped onto, then rolled him all within a few seconds, locking both his arms
That
up
shit
across his
got
legs and
me.
chest. Goodrich
Bruh,
had the
I
opening
never even
disaster,
think about
not the finish
doing
anyone
that,
was
bruh.
expecting. Instead of cranking on a possible armbar, Goodrich
Fuck.
released his right arm and planted on an
I ain't
elbow
even
right side
think
of
about
Herrera's
doing
head.
that, and
Then
I do
another
the
one,
armbar.
and another one,
That's
and another
crazy.
one, and four more
I used to
before
like doing
referee
the
John
armbar.
McCarthy could call it and break them apart. One look at the footage, and you see that Herrera is out
I
after,
used to
is out after
wrestle.
just one strike. To get a knockout finish in that position is something astounding in itself. And the speed and the brutality of 8 elbows in barely 3 seconds, and you had the most unique knockout in UFC history. And now moving toward one of the most creative knockouts to ever be witnessed in the world of MMA. Is brought to you by Anthony Showtime Pettis. Anthony was set to fight Benson Henderson at WEC 53 in Phoenix, Arizona. This was Benson's title defense for the lightweight division. During this fight, Anthony did one of the
Oh,
craziest
nice.
knockouts to ever be seen before. Check it out. Even though it knocked Benson Henderson down on his butt, it still did not stop the fight. The fight ended up with Anthony winning via unanimous decision, causing him to dethrone Benson and receive the belt for the lightweight division. Some argue that this might be the greatest knockout in MMA history. Just the creativity of running off the cage to
Know
kick
what
your
to do,
opponent, that's a
man. We
video
out.
game move. Alright MMA fans, thank you so much for sticking around to the end of this
Comment
video.
below, man. Hit
Enjoyed
that
this
like
video,
and
please give it a like,
sub.
make sure to hit the notification bell, and don't forget to subscribe if you're